Welcome to Functionally Speaking, the podcast where two clinicians share one brain cell and way too many opinions.
I'm Laura, your mineral-obsessed dietitian who gets fired up about gut health, metabolism, and fertility, with enough sass to keep it interesting and enough nuance to keep it real.
And I'm Danielle, a physician assistant obsessed with gut health, hormones, and calling out bullshit.
We're here for the nuance, the hot takes, the facts your certification skipped over, and the occasional spiral into chaos.
If you're a health coach, practitioner, or clinician who's slightly functional, just like our mitochondria in our recording process, you're in the right place.
We're not here to sugarcoat the science or pretend there's one right way to do this work. We're doing it our way, unfiltered, slightly feral, and always with love for the humans we serve. Let's get into it.
All right, we're back with Laura's sexy voice for week 2 of this because we're doing multiple recordings in one day. If you guys haven't figured that out by the... We decided not to do an outfit change. Not that we've ever done that.
No,
Can you imagine?
could never.
Oh my God. We're lucky that we get it together enough to show up here with our partially functioning mitochondria and recording. Our recording process and our mitochondria really are like partially functioning.
Yes.
Like,
at least we don't have little guys living inside of us.
No. Well, that we know of right now. What are we going to talk about today?
Oh, a phrase that I just love so much. And by love, I mean absolutely despise. If you have a pulse, you have a parasite. We're going to dig into if this is real or BS.
Do all of your clients or do you need a parasite cleanse? Guess what our answer is to this?
Yes, obviously. Everyone needs one every month.
I mean, I was going to say it depends.
I mean, right. Like, I think we talk about this all the time. Like, I feel like mold, Lyme, parasites, like all of these are like, especially in the functional space, I feel like are put on blast of like, oh, everyone has this, right? And so then I think what happens is like 2 lines of thoughts happen, right? Like there's the practitioners who everybody has this, so everyone gets treated for it. And then you have people who are like, well, no, F that. It's never mold. It's never Lyme. It's never parasites. And like, as with everything, it freaking depends. And then I feel like we like to take a step further and say, okay, if it is mold, if it's Lyme, in this case today, if it's a parasite, why, right? Like I had a client once and like he did like a canoeing trip and like drank the water, found Giardia from like 2 years later. And I'm like, well,
oh God,
the why makes
obviously.
Total sense, right? Like, so it's understanding the why and then also understanding like, why did they find you to be such a good host, right? Like, why were you unable to get rid of it? And I think that's some of like these people who are promoting this don't ask that. They just are like, come on, kill. Everyone has a parasite. You have holes. And it's like,
yeah, it's just not the case, you guys.
No.
And you know, I feel like we have really become irritated at the mold, Lyme, parasites, oh my, people. You know, lions and tigers and bears, oh my. It just isn't the case. And do these things exist? They do, for sure, 100%. But when people are just saying like, oh, everyone needs to do parasite cleanses and do them once a month. And first of all, that's so intense. Like that.
The people who do the full moon parasite cleanse
all the time,
every month and say everyone needs to do that. I'm like,
it's too much.
Right. It's too harsh and it's just not necessary. Like your body was designed to help you with your environment. Now, does that mean everyone is optimized all the time? No, absolutely. Which is absolutely not, which is like, right, when someone needs help. But every month, people, what are we doing?
Yeah. And I think that this is I think we have this point written down too, where just because it's herbal doesn't mean it's benign, right?
Yeah.
You know, those are still antimicrobials. They're still can cause alterations of your gut microbiome. Too much of a good thing can be a good thing, right? Like the dose makes the poison kind of deal. And if someone came to me and they were like, I run a parasite cleanse like once a year, I'd be like, okay. Like that's not something that I think is like the worst idea. And I don't think it's probably hurting them doing it once a year. You know, if they travel out of the country and they decide to take supplements while they're gone and then like when they come back, I don't think that that's the worst idea either. You know, so we do have like a very nuanced clinical respect for this. I see parasites a lot and there are times where I don't see parasites and there's also times where I don't see parasites and my clinical suspicion is high because there's a lot of histamine type symptoms.
Something like that.
And so I might incorporate something in their protocol, or if they have those symptoms and they've traveled, like, okay, maybe it makes sense to throw in an anti-parasitic into their kill phase anyway, right? Because we know it doesn't get picked up all the time also. So, but I think that one of the biggest reasons why we have a problem with this saying is it's just become this clinical reflex, and people, they're going in blind.
Well, I also think it creates this like fear mongering effect. And a lot of the people who come to us or who kind of come to the more functional space, I think are just in such a vulnerable space. They're not there because they're feeling their best, right? Like, I
Right.
don't know any client who came to me and they were like, I feel great. I just want to do a full package with you. Like, there's usually a reason, digestively, hormonally, energy wise, like, right, there's all these different reasons why someone's seeking more help because their doctor said, like, oh, your labs are normal, everything's fine, right? So then they went down this rabbit hole and we're like, there's got to be something else, which it probably is. And so then they find these people who are like, oh my God, you have a parasite, that's why you're having X, Y, and Z symptoms, you just have to do a cleanse every month.
Yeah.
And this person isn't eating enough fiber, this person isn't drinking water, this person is going to bed at 12 o'clock at night. Like, it's just like they fear monger them when like nobody ever even was like, let's just see what the basics are doing. Like, are we even addressing the very bare minimum for you to even tolerate a parasite cleanse? Should you need to address that? And that's where people go out. And then, I think there's a lot of talk about like people get like almost excited if they're having reactions when they're taking these parasite cleanses. Like, it's doing something. I'm like, yeah, your body isn't handling it.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah. And so I think this is our point of the parasite boogeyman is covering up basics people don't want to fix, right? That's literally what we have written down. And so, yeah, I mean, the first point of this is your body needs to be strong enough in order to handle that, because if it's not, you're going to get what we call a Herx reaction. And I really pride myself on, I would say like 95% of my people, you can't prevent it in everybody. Like, I don't know any practitioner who's never had someone who had some type of, hey, I just feel a little off. I feel a little nausea. It happens, but we do everything we possibly can in order to prevent that, right? Like, just because your client isn't having a reaction or herxing doesn't mean that your protocol isn't working. It just means that you've set them up for success. If every client that you have is having this experience where they're struggling through their kill phase, you really need to take a step back and look at, how am I setting my client up for success to not be having these experiences? So building them up, right, with minerals and food and antioxidants and making sure they're eating enough and hydration and those types of things. And then also, I will tell my clients, like, let's make sure we're taking magnesium and castor oil and saunaing or taking hot baths while we're in that kill phase to kind of reduce even any more opportunity, right? Even though I've spent time building them up. And I think that those are a couple of things that are not widely talked about, because I do think there is this bigger understanding or thought process in the more functional space of that it's still good if people are having these reactions. And that's simply like, your client doesn't need to suffer like that in order to see progress.
No, and they shouldn't. I tell all my clients, I'm like, if it impacts your quality of life, message me immediately and stop what you're doing. Like, it's just not, that is not worth it. And it's likely not doing what you think it's doing. And just like the strings of parasite that they put on the website, it's not actually a parasite. It's literally just like mucus from your colon and food and fiber and all the things. So,
yeah. I think we've kind of touched on this next point about, it's just the marketing makes our eye twitch a little bit, because it is just so much all or nothing. And there's a big fear mongering aspect to this too, which I think you kind of touched on earlier, with these people are really vulnerable. And so they will throw their money at anything that they think will make them feel better. And we really want to avoid that fear mongering for our clients. We want to present things in a way that it's facts over fear, right? Like, getting the tests as much as we can to show like, hey, like, this is something that it looks like is contributing to your symptoms. Let's include this in your protocol. Or, hey, this didn't show up, like, we don't need it. Or, it didn't show up, and I still think like maybe you have some risk factors and the symptoms line up, like, let's add it in anyway. So I think again, it depends.
yeah. It really does. And it just not everyone has parasite. My God.
No, everyone does not. The other thing, do you have maybe client examples or anything like that that you can kind of give out to people of running these protocols or what to do, what not to do type of thing?
I mean, I feel like you already mentioned it, like the foundations before you're going to
Yeah.
do any herbal approaches. And then usually it's an herbal approach, and then you're rebuilding and repairing as well. So, I mean, we both test using the GI map. I don't think it's 100% accurate for catching the parasite. So it's also knowing, the EPX, I think, is a new addition to the GI map, can be an indication that there's parasites. You can look on blood work, and some elevated blood cells can show, like, if there's elevated eosinophils, monocytes, basophils, that could point to parasites. Like, there's ways that you can also, as a practitioner, like, kind of triangulate, like, is this actually an issue? But I always come back to why. Like, why is this
Mm.
person susceptible to a parasite if we see it or if we're suspecting it? And how do we help that person? Like, is their stomach acid really low? If they don't have, low enough stomach acid or high enough stomach acid, low enough pH, then they're not going to be able to help with any pathogens that come their way. Is the person eating enough fiber to support detoxification? Are they eating enough protein to support detoxification? Like, there's all these different foundations that I think in the functional space don't get talked about enough. And it's like, if people are eating enough, chewing their food well, managing their stress well, most people can fend off whatever's coming for them outside of drinking poor water, eating from, a country that may not have clean water or clean food, right? Like, there are times and places, there's also a statistic that is kind of disturbing. Like, daycare centers have, like, I think like 50% rates of like pinworm. That's a pretty easy one to get rid of. But like, knowing the person's history and understanding how it got there and how to help them prevent it can be super helpful. And I said, like, I just feel like the fear mongering of it is really where it gets me, of like, these poor vulnerable people are just gonna, like, they're already bloated, they're already tired, they're already having trouble digesting, and now you're just gonna throw a firebomb at them once a month when we need to go back to the basics. I feel like I've already said this 3 times, but like, that's just
But it's so important, I think, too, though, because you're right. Like, why are these things happening? And this can be with any gut pathogen, right?
yeah,
Like, what
yeah.
is deficient or what is problematic with or for your client that their GI map lit up like a Christmas tree, right? Like, kind of taking a little bit more of a broad brushstroke with this. And I know we say this all the time, but and I go back and I'm kind of getting into something different, but I really feel like the stress and the load of people is such a contributor to these things. And I know, like, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm kind of veering into a different topic, but about how conventional medicine really says to women a lot of the times, like, it's just stress. And sometimes I feel like I'm bridging on that with people, but also in such a very different way, because I'm not saying, oh, it's just stress, because that stress is causing so many other things that conventional medicine isn't even acknowledging are a problem, right? Like the gut dysfunction, the nutrient deficiencies. And they're not talking to people about how to manage that, right? They're basically like, don't have a mental health problem, see you next year kind of deal. And I've been thinking about that a lot because I've been finding myself talking to so many of my clients about the need to pull back, do less exercise, say yes to less, and all of these things. And I feel like just with how much we're really hitting on why are these things happening, this is such a huge reason why these things, I don't want to say like this is why, but contributors as to why people are experiencing things like this. And so I've been thinking a lot about the stress piece and what it does to people and what people can do about it too, because I also realize that the capacity to change things really depends on the season. And a lot of the time, the stressor that can be manipulated the most is exercise frequency and intensity, and people get really upset about that.
I get it's hard, especially as a
It
mom, when
is.
that's like your one thread to your who you are as a person.
The thread of sanity is being pulled at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. As far as parasites go, any other big things coming up for you? Do you have a
No.
parasite protocol that you like?
Honestly, it just depends. I mean, I use certain herbs. It depends what else we're seeing, right? Like, if they're having a parasite, I mean, usually if I spot a parasite on someone's test, there's usually dysbiosis. Often there's H. pylori, so low stomach acid, right? So like I'm doing a ton of work before I even get there, usually like at least 2 months of other work before we're even addressing the parasite, which I know might not be everyone's line of thought, but I want to build the body up so that when we do get rid of it, the body can handle it.
Yeah. I usually do about a month. So I usually start on the first appointment, starting with like detox, drainage, minerals, electrolytes, fiber, making sure nutrition is on board. And then like, a month to 6 weeks later when we're getting results back and when we're meeting again, kind of really able to dive into those things, right? So I don't know. I don't really have a lot other to say about this besides I think using clinical decision making is really important here. So, if you are someone who maybe went into this episode thinking, yeah, if people do have a pulse, they have a parasite, hopefully you rethink a little bit and, just use some clinical decision making in that. But I don't really have any more to say about it either. So, I feel like we can kind of cut her off.
Yep.
Yeah. And friendly reminder that we have some amazing guest speakers and events coming up in the collaborative. If you haven't checked out the collaborative yet, unconventionalcollaborative.com, unconventional.collaborative on Instagram. And yeah, feel free to send us any messages, ask us any questions, and we will see you there. Bye.